Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my quarter 2 review for homeschool. So if you enjoyed this type of content and other homeschool and lifestyle content, please remember to subscribe and let's get into it. Okay, I can't believe that it's like halfway through the school year already. That's kind of crazy and kind of not at the same time. I don't know if anybody else feels me on this point, but this time of year is really hard for me as a homeschooler. I think it's because it is the halfway of the school year and we've been going pretty strong since, the very beginning of September. So when I get to December, I'm just very burnt out. And it's supposed to be this, oh, let's have fun, let's celebrate Christmas, let's do all these things, and I'm just exhausted. I have little patience left, and there's, so many activities and events and different things going on, and I'm just kind of like, no, I don't want to do any of it. I just want to be done with school, be on Christmas break, and just be able to breathe without having to worry about prepping stuff for school, grading stuff for school, getting other things ready for next month for school, all the things. I'm like, I just want to have a break. And so I don't know if anybody else is like that, but this time of year is actually kind of hard for me as a homeschooler just because it is just that burnt out period midway through the school year where I'm just exhausted and done with homeschooling and have very little patience and very little Christmas spirit. I have very little in me to be cheery for my kids when I'm just like, So anyway, that's kind of how I'm starting this video, just to let you know that's how we ended. Our second quarter was with me just being kind of super done with school. But we get a break now and we can be all refreshed and come back happy in January. At least that's the goal. So I'm just going to tell you a few of the things that we did over this last quarter. So the first month of the quarter, because it's, about 8 weeks, we focused more just on our normal homeschool, which seems forever ago for me. It's only been a few weeks, but it seems like it was ages ago. And so we focused on our normal curriculum. My kids did their individual subjects and we did group work together. They included science and history, not history, geography, well, yes, some history too. And so we did all those normal things. And then we did our state reports at the end of that quarter, at the end of that month, because I knew we were gonna be doing something different for December to focus on Christmas. So I was like, my kids really love the state report, so we did that. And I'll go into more detail of all these things. I'm just giving you an overview real quick. And then December, we focused more on Christmas schooling stuff. So they still did their individual subjects, math, language arts, 4 times a week for the 3 weeks of December before we went on Christmas break. So they did that. And then we did group work, sort of. It was more like a Christmas craft or activity. They have been doing Christmas around the world. I put them in charge of it this year, and which still requires a lot of work for me. In my head I was thinking, oh, I won't have to do as much, but it still requires a lot for me, which is another thing that makes it so hard this time of year, where I'm trying to offload things for other people to do and still have to do a lot. But they picked different countries, and so they were focusing on things for that in December. And so that's kind of what we revolved our group work around. We did some stuff with our Advent calendars and focusing on Christ and different things like that. And so it's been a full couple of months, but they've also been very different months because we've been focusing on different things. So I'm just gonna go through a few more of the specific things with our science curriculum, what we did for some Christmas schooling, and just share a few different things with you. So in November, we finished our science unit that we were working on, which was Wonders of Energy. Some of the cards are falling out, whoops. And this was a fun unit to do. There was a lot of different activities to be involved with. It's been a while. Like I said, it's been a month since we finished this, and I made sure that we finished it. So we did our geography curriculum just the first 2 weeks, and then the week before Thanksgiving, so we could have the week of Thanksgiving off before we came back and did Christmas schooling. We just did science all week instead of doing geography, so that we could get it done and not just have a few lessons left until January. So this one's a lot of fun. It goes through tons of different types of energy. It has a history of energy. You use magnets, you use batteries, you're building some different things to show energy. You have to be careful because we were trying not to burn ourselves. Some of the batteries are very powerful. And the hardest one was when we magnetized the nail. So you magnetize a nail and it will kind of burn you. So you have to be careful because it's very powerful, which you don't think it is, but it like something so small could be so powerful. But it does have some things like copper wire that you need to get, batteries, at least if you want to do the experiments. Like they have videos where you could just watch what the experiment would look like. Obviously that's not as fun. And so then there's like these little light bulbs as well that I just bought some off of Amazon. And so you connect to battery, you try different systems, what are they even called? So you have like the series, you have a parallel system with how electricity flows, just to show different ways that electricity works in your house, or even with Christmas trees, like with light bulbs and all that kind of stuff. And so there was a lot of fun activities like that in this book. And again, stuff with magnets, a lot of interesting things for my kids to go through. Again, I really love the workbooks. They're just so helpful and kind of give us things to talk about. They have different ways for them to make predictions, to, write a hypothesis sort of, and then to tell what actually happened. There was the things with the batteries and hooking them up to the light bulbs. And if you hook them up certain ways, what happens? So there's a lot of different things in here. There's even this family conservation plan, which this particular child was very into this plan. Before we even got to this lesson, he was like gung-ho, like, I have the plan worked out. We need to like stop watching as much on a tablet. And if we do that, like he was like going to town on it. It was super funny. And all my other kids were like, no. And he's also like, if we take 5 to 7 minute showers, we can time it. Everyone else was like, no, no, they didn't want to do it. But he was ready to go and do it. And then this is the booklet for the older kids. So my oldest son uses this because he's in 7th grade, which again, he doesn't always do all the other things in here. There's extra reading and experiments in some of the lessons. And some of them just are more like he has to write things down, whereas my other kids' booklets might just have them matching something. So it just kind of steps it up just a little bit harder. So like this is the same as the other book, but then there is a reading thing here that some of them have experiments and stuff you can do with them to make them a little bit more like in depth for the older children. So I really like that unit. I need to get our unit ready for January because we were gonna do chemistry this last fall, but realized I wasn't quite ready for that. I needed to be more prepared. So now I actually need to be prepared so that once January comes, we can do chemistry next. And that will be, I think it's a little bit longer intensive of a unit. So we'll see how long it takes us. The next thing I wanted to mention or highlight is my kids doing their state reports. So we did geography just the first 2 weeks of November, and before we started those 2 weeks, my kids drew out some of the states, and it wasn't the states we covered during that time because some of those they had already done some reports on. So actually the states they researched, we will be talking about in January. So I looked ahead and went to, I think it was like the Mountain West states, so where we live, and a few other states, which was fun for them, that researched all that kind of stuff. And then they put on their state reports right before Thanksgiving. And my kids did a great job. They drew pictures, they made posters, and one of my sons even made a beehive because Utah's the beehive state, and he made it out of polymer clay, and it was really good. He filled it with little Lego bees that he had and like had it break open. It was very interactive. It was hilarious. So they really have loved it. It's been fun to see the different personalities of my kids approach these projects because you can just see who they are by how they approach the projects, and it's a lot of fun to see. And they do a really great job at it. And so they did those state reports to kind of finish off our geography unit before we started our Christmas schooling, which still led us into some geography because they got to each pick a country that they wanted to do for Christmas schooling kind of ideas. So I'll talk about those things in a minute. But that kind of led into that. So we still did a geography element, but it just wasn't quite the same as we had already been doing and that we normally do for homeschool. And the last thing I want to mention before I talk about our Christmas schooling is just some of the read alouds we were doing. So I mentioned before how I like to incorporate our history curriculum. We don't have a history curriculum, but I like to incorporate our history learning and everything we're doing for history in read alouds, whether it's historical fiction or some of them are fiction. And so this last quarter, we were focusing more on the Titanic. We did not read all of these books, but we got through some of them, and we might still go through some of them because they could just be interesting to read little tidbits here and there. And so these are several of the books that I have on the Titanic. And they're ones that were recommended from Jessica from the Waldock Way. She has a mini unit on the Titanic where it has some different activities, timelines you can fill in and things like that. But at the front of it, she has a list of books and activities that you can do. And so I started with this one. I like to try to start with something a little bit more factual and just go through and overview the whole thing with my kids. Like, this is what happens. This is the story, this is the idea, so they kind of have a framework in their heads. And so these books are really good. What was the Titanic? This goes through and kind of answers different questions about it, like how many crew members there were, how it was built, and then goes through details of what happened. I was trying to see if there's questions. So it just says, like rescue, and it goes through the just some different aspects of the whole story and gives you a more complete idea. And this one has some pictures too that were taken, and then some of them from finding the Titanic on the bottom of the ocean. And so this one was a really good one to start with. And I can't remember, I think we read this one too, spend a minute, but we read this one, and these ones are also fun for just like a quick overview. And they're really good for that, to just kind of go through and this is quickly what happened in this story. And then we like to read the I Survived books. These are historical fiction and they're a simpler book. I have some more complex, like Titanic books that are historical fiction. We didn't get to any of those. I think some of my kids would enjoy them, but we just didn't have time to do all that reading, and I had colds off and on, so reading was difficult for my throat. But these ones are really simple. This one also has a graphic novel. The same story, we have the graphic novel. I think my kids took it somewhere though. But it's the same exact story, but in graphic novel form. So that could be fun just even for the kids to read. So we went through all of those, well, some of those, and my kids learned a lot. I learned a lot. It was a good experience. And we also finished Ernest Shackleton. I had mentioned last time that we were almost done with this book in my Q1 review. And so we did finish it, and my kids are always like, finish it, we want to see what happens or hear what happens. And this is a really good one. Like, it's good for children too. It doesn't have, like, some things are a little bit like, ooh, that's gross or whatever, or like, I can't believe they did that. But for the most part, it's very, like, it's comfortable to read to kids. Some books maybe swear, or they're like really gory, or, they might go into things that are a little uncomfortable for a wider audience. Whereas I feel like these books, the heroes of history, are pretty good about, conveying a good story to a wider audience without you having to censor it. And so I really like that. And then we watched the Endurance documentary. I watched it before my kids just to make sure everything was good. And then they watched it as they tied blankets on Thanksgiving. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen pictures of it, of the stack of blankets, like fleece blankets. They just sat there and they tied them while they watched the documentary, and they really enjoyed it. I was like, were you worried they weren't gonna find the ship? And some of them thought they were gonna find it sooner. Some didn't know when they were gonna find it. And some of them, their favorite part was when they lost the huge sensor the first time that, kind of goes across the ocean floor or whatever. That was my favorite part. I'm like, you realize that's worth like millions of dollars. Yeah, that was my favorite part. Okay. So anyway, It's a really good documentary. It's really interesting and fascinating to read about, and my kids all really enjoyed that. And it was nice to have like a service activity for them to do, because we try to do a service activity over Thanksgiving. And so we did the blankets, and then we also put together some hygiene kits that I think they go to refugees. And so we looked at justserve.org and found some activities that we could do, and then you can drop them off locally, because they have pickup centers all over the place. And so you can drop them off locally, and it was just a fun service project for them to do while also learning some things for school. All right, I just wanted to go over a few things that we did for Christmas schooling that were a lot of fun. One of them, I'm just gonna grab it here before I forget, but there are these posters. It's kind of hard to tell. I think I don't know if I have video or pictures, but I'll try to insert them. But these are just from Amazon, and they are huge posters. They have different seasonal things. These ones are both Christmas that I had gotten. And then we got the alcohol markers, but you could get just normal markers. Like, it doesn't have to be anything special, or colored pencils. And you just lay it out, and you can put it on a table on the ground. And my kids sat here on the ground for a few hours when we first got it last week and just colored. And we'll probably pull them out again for Christmas Eve, and just, be able to color. You can talk as a family. It's not just fun for little kids, it's fun for adults and older kids as well. And so that was a fun thing that we did as part of our Christmas schooling. And then another huge part of it, like I said, was Christmas around the world. And so my kids picked different countries. So we had Japan, France, Australia, and Mexico. Like, what were all the ones? And they were trying to find crafts. That was one of the assignments, was to pick a craft, and they were having a little bit of a hard time. So I started looking for things and ended up falling upon like ornaments that, I don't know if they actually make these ornaments in these countries, but they were things that represented those countries. And so that's what we ended up doing. We have a little 4-foot tree in our homeschool room right over here. It's one I got years and years ago. We hardly ever use it. I was like, we'll set that tree up, because then we can put all of our little ornament decorations on them. And so for Australia, we did these little seashells. I just ordered seashells on Amazon. I don't have like a Dremel tool, is that what they're called, that does the holes in shells or in stuff for jewelry type things. And so these ones I found on Amazon that already have holes in them. And so that was nice, because I was like, I'm not gonna be able to drill holes in them. Any drill bit I have is for like wood or metal, and they're much bigger than these need to be. And so we just got these ones off of Amazon. If you have other skills, you could definitely just find your own and drill holes in them. And then we did the Mod Podge on the outside. Well, we painted them white first, I think, and then did that. And then I put tons of glitter, and then put tons of Mod Podge over the glitter so that the glitter did not go every place, because that's what happens with glitter. And there's still glitter every place, not from these, but just from my kids doing this activity. These ones are attached with just wire, and I think some of them have beads on them. I had gotten some clear crystally beads, and my kids have put those on. If I remember, I'll try to link all these things below, because most of this stuff was off of Amazon. This wire was actually left over from our science units when we needed copper wire, and so we just used the same wire. So that's what they did for Australia. And then for France, these are macaroons. At least that's what they're kind of supposed to look like. So they're bottle caps that have been painted. My kids, I got different kinds of glitter, and they painted them according to the glitter. And then you just hot glue a string inside, put the bottle caps together, and then you hot glue the outside and put the glitter around it as the filling of the macaroon. And so that's what it is, and it hangs on the tree for France. And then for Mexico, we did these little poinsettias, because that's like their Christmas flower. And so most of these from Pinterest. I was just scrolling Pinterest, and I found these different ideas on Pinterest. And this one you could do out of felt too. I didn't have felt already in these colors, and cutting out all that felt and tracing it is a lot of work. So it was easier just to print on paper and cut it out. And then I got these little gold beads off of Amazon, and then I got pipe cleaner to attach them. I didn't tell my kids how to attach them because I was like, I don't know, they'll figure it out. And they did. Some of them like poked holes through and put the beads through and everything, and then you can just twist this around the tree and attach it. And then for Japan, we didn't get to anything. My oldest son was in charge of it, and I was like, find something that we can make that was origami, because that was kind of, I was like, oh, that would be fun, like the little ducks or geese that you see. I feel like my dad used to make them all the time when we were kids. Something like that that could represent Japan. And so we never got to that. Again, everything was crazy. I always have like really high expectations for myself and what we'll actually be able to get done, and then we don't get it done. We just can't, like, it's just not feasible, or things happen, or people get sick, right? Or there's just things that interrupt it. So we didn't get to all the things, but that was what the plan was. And then I wanted to mention the food real quick, because the food was a fun part. We're still working on some of the food things, but for Australia, we did pavlova. My kids love making pavlova. It's like one of their favorite things. It's just like a meringue dessert, so an egg white based dessert. It's fairly simple to make, and then you fill it with cream and top it with berries. So it's very summery, which makes sense. Australia, it's summer there, so. And my kids love that. You could also top it with lemon curd, with a chocolate sauce. You know, there's lots of different options. So we did that for Australia. And then my almost 10-year-old son made a bread. I don't even remember what it's called, but it was like, I don't know if it's a sort of a king's bread or something for Mexico. And so it has orange zest and lime zest in it. I don't think we had lime, so we just used lemons. But then we candied some lemon and orange pills, and you decorate the top of it with those. And so it almost, I didn't eat very much of it, but it's kind of a mix. It reminds me of like a pound cake and a shortbread, but the ingredients are in no way similar to that. There's a lot of eggs in it, so, and neither shortbread nor pound cake have a lot of eggs in them, if any. And so the ingredients don't match up, but the like texture and flavor, that's what it kind of reminded me of, with like that hint of citrus in the background. So, and that was fun for him to make. He enjoyed making that. And then my oldest son for Japan, he made their Christmas cake, which is basically a strawberry shortcake. That's become like their thing in Japan. That's what they have all the time for Christmas. And it's kind of cute actually, like the strawberries on top make me think of Santa's like hat, so it works out. And so he did that, he put that all together and really enjoyed doing that. And then for France, where my daughter is actually making stuff today and tomorrow, like for Christmas Eve, and she is doing the Yule log or the Bûche Noël. That's what she's making. And she also had wanted to do something else. I don't know if we'll get to it. We already have so many treats this time of year, so, but she is doing that. We have the sponge cake all rolled up and, you know, letting it set and cool and everything. She's making meringues to go on top, like little mushrooms. And so there'll probably be a picture on Facebook, not Facebook, probably not Facebook, on Instagram. And so you guys can go check it out there if you want to see a picture of it. When we're done, I'll post something maybe later this week. But they've all had a lot of fun doing it, and they did share some stories from their countries, stories of, I think there was one about the poinsettias, and some different stories of how they celebrate Christmas, or who Santa is there, different activities they have. And so that was fun. They all shared some different insights and ideas for that. And again, we had much more, like several more ideas we could have done, but that's what we got to. And I feel like everybody had a good time. And then even just today, while everyone was sitting working on a puzzle, I had found this Around the World Christmas Jeopardy from penpapermade.com. Well, actually, no, those are just advertisements. I don't know what the website is. I think I saved it on my Pinterest board, but let me see if I can see what there is not a website on here for what it was. So it was just like a free download though. And it was super fun to go through. It makes you realize how little we know about geography and like more detailed things about Christmas in other countries. because we're all going through it and we're like, I don't know what the answer is to this, but we just kind of played it for fun. We weren't keeping score. You know, they would just pick a category and I'd read the question, and if they didn't know it, then we'd ask around, you know, anybody else could answer it and stuff. So it was just fun. And we laughed at some of the answers that my kids gave, so it was a good time. So those were a few of the things that we ended up doing for Christmas schooling. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video of kind of my review of quarter 2. It had its ups and downs. Obviously, all seasons of life have ups and downs. And I am just excited to have a break because I feel like I mentally need it to come back in January and make it through another 2 quarters of homeschool before summer hits. And so that's why I'm just like, okay, take a break, get some things done, and then feel rejuvenated and ready to go so that I can be a better mom, a better teacher, a better homeschooler, all those things. And so that's kind of my goal. Comment down below and let me know what your favorite thing was that you did the last couple months in homeschool. Let me know how you're doing. Are you making it through the holidays? Are you making it through this like halfway point of the school year? Let us all know, because we could all use some encouragement and also knowing that we're not alone in our struggles. And remember to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.